one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 3, roll call, starting from my left.
Adkins here.
Asdell here.
Baker?
Samuel here.
Number 4, can I get a motion to certify, can I get a certification of the posting of the meeting agenda, please?
The agenda was posted on June 17th, 8:21 a.m. to the Daily Tribune, Town Hall, 8:39 a.m., Nakusa Port Edward State Bank, 8:33, and Quick Trip, 8:34.
Thank you. Number 5, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda, Adkins.
Baker will second.
Discussion? All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 6, electric comments. Any cards turned in? We'll dispense with number 6. No action contemplated except possible referral to future agenda, information, updates, meeting recaps, current events, and announcements.
Nothing.
Red? Mike?
I think it's Chris Cozy is going to be at the band shell Friday night. And I just don't know what time he's going to start. But he, I think it was on, what show? One of the, The Voice. They took like first or second place on The Voice. So yeah, he'll be in Rome on Friday night at the band show.
Mark?
No.
A couple things. Had the State of the Lakes a week ago Saturday, and it was very well attended, standing room only. And Wilkinson did cover a lot of the information from EOR. And then we had our very own Heather Gayton and Pat Rogers there explaining about the biochar and the possibilities. And we're looking forward to more information on that so we can maybe do something with it in the lakes area. Just a heads up, a permit was issued by the DNR to one of our lake owners on Sherwood about dredging. We're going to take out 120 yards of material out of one of the bays, and it'll be deposited at the transfer site, and that's been approved. And the Goose Roundup is set for June 27th. Looking for people that'll handle each of the lakes, getting it organized and working through it. Is there any volunteers that can head up certain lakes? I'm available for whatever's left over. Last couple of years I've done Arrowhead, but I can probably get somebody for Camelot if needed, but anybody offering for Sherwood to head it up.
I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to.
Oh, okay. Anybody else?
I could probably help on, well, depending on what our schedule is like or at work, I could probably help with Lower Camelot if you need somebody.
Okay.
When I get my boat running, I can do Sherwood.
You can do Sherwood?
I'll contact people, the same people that did it last year.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure I'll be able to be on a boat.
All right. Now, I'll take Arrowhead, not a problem. A couple of us are handling that one pretty well, so. Alrighty, that's all I've got there. And now, number 8, Zoom presentation with Last Wilderness Alliance. Mark, you want to handle that?
Yes, Carl and I at the conference up in Stevens Point met with Jeff, excuse me if I butcher your name, Jeff Messerman.
That's good.
And Jeff offered the assistance of the Last Wilderness Alliance in helping us discuss wake boats on our 3 lakes. And we've got Fred Silloway. He's with the organization, too. He's from Wapak. He's a little bit closer than Jeff. So with that, Jeff, it's all yours.
Okay, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. My name is Jeff Meisman, and I'm a retired professional engineer mechanical. I started my career at Kohler Company in Kohler, Wisconsin. And I'm going to present to you today, and I'd ask that you'd hold off your comments and questions till the end, and I'll do my best to answer anything that you guys have at the end of the presentation. Some of my qualifications are I'm a director in Last Wilderness Alliance. Last Wilderness Alliance is a nonprofit organization focused on an advocate for the lakes. I'm a founding member of a coalition to protect Wisconsin lakes that now includes over 80 different organizations, and I'm also a recipient of the 2024 Wisconsin Lake Stewardship Award for public involvement. I volunteer as a DNR Clean Boat Clean Water inspector. I volunteer as a DNR Citizen Lake Monitoring, and I think the DNR saw that I was volunteering for a lot of stuff, so they assigned me as an island steward also, which entails cleaning up the islands at the end of the season. I'm also a chair in Natural Lakes for Natural Lakes Waterway Committee. I live in a homeowners association. Natural Lakes is the homeowners association. In that association, we have 4 lakes, and I am the chair over those 4 lakes. So if the Zoom gods are with us today, we're going to see a brief video, and then we're going to have a short presentation after that. So.
For the past decade, wake sports have been increasing on inland lakes and rivers. To create a wave big enough to surf, 8,000 to 10,000 pound boats loaded with lake water ballast use a large, powerful engine to push the boat's stern down, creating a wake. While there is no doubt that the powerful wakes pose safety risks to other lake users, a new, troublesome impact is coming to light. Ecological damage to the bottom of lakes, potentially impacting water quality and fisheries for years to come. Big Cedar Lake in Washington County, Wisconsin, is a natural spring-fed lake with many glacial features. It's also where a local resident started to notice and document serious changes in the lake bottom in recent years. What you'll see in this video is the unseen damage we believe is being caused by wake surfing. The main wake, or waves, are divergent waves, meaning they move away from the boat. For wake surfing, these waves are bigger, travel farther, and can damage shorelines, docks, and piers, and pose danger to other lake users. What is harder to see is the downward prop wash, which extends 20 feet or more below the surface, destroying fish habitat and nests, while at the same time stirring up long, dormant sediment containing phosphorus and, in some cases, heavy metals and harmful chemicals. Watch the wake boat as it moves deeper water up onto a 6-foot deep bottom plateau. The downward prop wash is so strong that it creates a tornadic effect on the bottom, lasting minutes after the boat passes over the area. The bubbling sediment continues to churn, while wake surfers insist that they only operate their boats in deep water. Unfortunately, many times they are operating in shallower spots of a lake or ride over shallower underwater reefs or structures. So how is this impacting the underwater ecosystem? This is a thriving deep weed bed on Big Cedar Lake from the summer of 2014. The chain of life is evident as fish large and small thrive in the aquatic vegetation. These deep weed beds hold the key to the aquatic ecosystem. It's where middle schools hide and big muskie and northern pike prowl. Sadly, many of these deep weed beds on Big Cedar Lake are now gone. This is the same area from the summer of 2023, now a barren moonscape. The question is, what will happen to our fisheries in the years ahead as vital habitat is lost? Wake surfers insist they are not the cause, and maybe other factors perhaps contributed to the loss of this habitat. But while fishing and ski boats were used extensively on Big Cedar Lake for decades before 2014, the one thing that has changed has been the start of wake surfing. While other boats certainly do impact the environment, let's compare what happens to the same exact bottom area of Big Cedar Lake when a wake surfer passes over it versus a typical water ski boat. We can see how the downward prop wash is destroying the bottom, where it appears all the sediment was completely blasted off, stripping the bottom down to mud. Can any vegetation or fish nests survive even 1 or 2 inadvertent passes like this? An education program for wake boat operators won't solve the problem. A few passes from 1 or 2 wake surf boats has already done the damage. This is a typical boat, not a wake surf boat. This same bottom stretch of lake is not impacted by traditional activities such as water skiing, tubing, jet skiing, or cruising. It takes a highly sophisticated and expensive piece of machinery to create a wake large enough to surf. And the wake surfing boats are getting bigger and more powerful with each passing year.
With world-class wakes and waves, the G25 Paragon continues to be the pinnacle of perfection. Let's go check out what it has to offer for 2023. The G25 Paragon comes in at 25 feet in length, is 102 inches wide, weighs 7,400 pounds, has seating for up to 19 people, has an integrated subfloor factory ballast of 2,200 pounds, has an additional supplemental ballast option of 1,450 pounds, for a grand total of 3,650 pounds of factory ballast, so you get amazing wakes and waves all at the touch of a button.
Wake surfing boats also carry a hidden threat: transfer of invasive species in their ballast water. The ballast systems can hold hundreds of gallons of lake water. These systems are nearly impossible to inspect. They do not drain or dry completely, and they are extremely difficult to clean and decontaminate. This creates the perfect environment for the transfer of aquatic invasive species from lake to lake. As wake surfing proliferates on Wisconsin lakes, its negative impacts are now starting to take a toll on one of our most significant natural resources. We urge citizens and elected officials to take action now. One step would be to protect our lakes from aquatic invasive species and damaging wakes by placing a restriction that prohibits watercraft from artificially enhancing a wake through the use of ballast systems, design features, operational procedures, or any other means on all Wisconsin lakes. The Wisconsin DNR is encouraging local municipalities and lake districts to address this issue as they see best fit for their local needs. As a result, a number of local governmental units around the state have now enacted ordinances that prohibit wake-enhanced sports. The local governmental unit that regulates your lakes has this power. Please join us in this effort to protect our inland lakes and rivers in Wisconsin and beyond.
Okay, that was the video, and they emphasize local control. Wisconsin statute 30.77 gives the local units of government have the right to enact ordinance more restrictive than state minimum standards when necessary to fully protect the waters under their jurisdiction. So some of the arguments you're going to get against local control is that your town will be sued. Why not wait for state regulations? Enforcing an ordinance is illegal or impossible. Are there really any environmental issues? And only the boating industry science is correct. So we're going to cover those briefly and give you guys some reasons why these aren't true. First of all, let's start with your town will be sued. Mary Felskowski is our senator, Senator Mary Felskowski, and she sent a letter to Wisconsin Legislative Council asking if the public trust doctrine would violate the right for a town to establish a local control ordinance. And their comments were that you could have direct prohibition of wake boats, or you could have a prohibition on certain types of operation. But in either case, the court is likely to find that the regulation is consistent with the public trust doctrine. Next one is the pro-wake boaters will say that it's unconstitutional. You're trying to take away their rights. I challenge anyone to show me what part of the state or federal constitution says that someone has the privilege or right to destroy our natural resources, destroy my personal property, irreversibly damage our natural resources, create a safety hazard to everyone else using the lake. What about the rights of the 97% of the people that don't have wake boats? What about our rights to use the lake? Pro-wake boaters will say, let's wait for state regulations. And I can tell you, as a part of the coalition to protect Wisconsin lakes, that we are far apart from agreeing on what's been proposed. Last year, the state representative proposed 200 feet from shore and take away local control. This year, the boating industry is saying 200 feet from shore and compromise or take away local control. The coalition, and that's the 80 different groups that are formed in this coalition, the coalition is proposing the following minimum state regulations: 700 feet from shore, 30 feet deep, home lake rule to control aquatic invasive species spread. And that simply stated is just saying that before I put my boat in your lake, I got to clean it. And if I put it in another lake, I got to clean it before I put it in. But above all, preserve local control. Timing of any potential state regulations. There was a meeting conducted on May 28th, organized by Senator Felskowski to discuss legislation. Several boating industry lobbyists attended, a county association lobbyist, a town association lobbyist, and senator and representative that proposed a bad bill were present. We were represented by Senator Rachel Guevara and Steve Lyons as our lobbyist. The deck continues to be stacked against us. The wake sports industry has greater influence over our senators and representatives than popular opinion. Even though we have thousands of people that support meaningful legislation, our legislation are not listening to the popular grassroots efforts that would protect one of Wisconsin's most valuable resources, our lakes. Why do you think that is? Presently, it's more likely that bad wake sports industry-sponsored legislation will be considered rather than legislation that would protect our lakes. Don't wait for state regulations. Since 2009, how many lakes over 50 acres have been protected from damaging enhanced wake surfing or AIS transfer? What's the score? DNR protected 0 lakes so far. NRB, Natural Resource Board, protected 0 lakes so far. Legislation, 0 protected lakes. Counties, they're not authorized. They don't have the right to protect lakes. Lac du Flambeau tribe, they protected 50, good for them. Local control has protected over 275 lakes so far. Last Wilderness Alliance has assisted with the protection of at least 260 of those lakes. Local control is the way to go. Don't count on the state. Pro-wake boaters will say that enforcing an ordinance like this is impossible. Say it's not enforceable. It's not true, and it's not a good reason not to act. These ordinances have been shown to be self-enforcing because violations are so very obvious and so very public. Peer pressure and general reminders and signage are often entirely sufficient. Towns can enforce their ordinances. So there's 5 ways, at least 5 ways, to execute compliance with local boating ordinances. Enhanced wake ordinances have been successfully enacted years back, as far as 16 years in Mequon, for example. You can enter into a contract with the county sheriff. You can establish a boat patrol. You can hire a town constable, or any above solutions can be done jointly with another town. But the most popular method by far is that a town board may authorize town board members and other officials to issue citations. And this is already specified in Wisconsin statutes 66.0113. And so if I'm a town board member, like a chair, I can assign perhaps a fire chief or somebody else to issue the citations. Violations of the municipal ordinance is a civil action, and it can be taken to the civil court. If you don't have a court in your town, then it can go to a municipal court. And for example, in Vilas County, it costs $5 to process this in the county court of Vilas County. And that's all. These are all covered under Wisconsin statutes. Environmental issues. A lot of the pro-wake boaters will say all the lakes are not being damaged by these boats. But I'm going to talk about lake bottom damage, shoreline damage, aquatic invasive species transfer, and water quality issues. Let's cover lake bottom damage. So this was an interesting article from a magazine called Cars and Yachts, and it was in reference to the Supra wake surfing boat. And I think that they had it right. Ideally, staying in over 20 feet of water will provide the best wake surfing experience. When wake surfing in shallow water, it's not uncommon to churn up much sand that the whole area becomes brown and discolored, which is harmful effect on the vegetation and wildlife. And you saw that in the video. High traffic areas, it's not uncommon for vegetation to die out completely, creating a watery desert with where lush greenery once grew. And you saw that in the video. Staying in deeper water will protect the environment and help reduce vegetation loss while limiting the impact on fish and other animals living in the area. It can also reduce pollution that occurs when impacted trash and materials are dredged up, reintroducing them into the ecosystem. This is an example of where the surfer fell as he passes over the sand area and the muck appeared behind it. In shallow water, all the energy that's used to create the massive wake now goes into blasting the bottom of your lake. You can actually see where the surfer fell because he lost the wake because it was now damaging the bottom instead of creating the wake. And this is again from the video. This is in 2014 where you see the wishbone feature, and this is in 15 feet of water. You see the fish, the wishbone feature, a nice northern coming up behind it. This is the same picture. I know it's kind of hard to see, but the water's clarity has been compromised. And you can see the wishbone feature here in 2023. These are both taken on Memorial Day weekend in the same, Memorial Day weekend of 2014 and Memorial Day weekend of 2023. So it's the same time of the year that both these images were taken, but this is now just a desert. Shoreline damage. The most critical part of the lake's ecosystem is littoral zone, where the water is less than 15 feet deep. This is where sun supports plant growth. At least 90% of the aquatic life depends on the zone for their life cycle. Energy in the surf waves approaching the shore extends deeper and is much stronger, at least 3 to 9 times stronger than for skiing, so surfing impacts more critical habitat. This was a shoreline, and this is in a preserve at Hunters Lake, and now it's been eroded by wake boats in the surf mode. This is again on Hunters Lake on the preserve, and now what used to be a spawning bed for fish is now muck covered. This was a lady that bought property on Hunters Lake, and this used to be a sand frontage, Now there's 2 to 3 inches of muck that cover her sand. I don't know how you get rid of that. Maybe the nanotechnology would help get rid of that, but I don't know how you fix that. So when the industry sell the boats, they brag about the size of the, and this was actually from the wake boating industry, and these aren't numbers I put in, this is what they're saying. The Malibu 25 LSV creates a wake 4.4 feet high. Yet when discussing regulations like depth or distance, the size of the wake, or the ballast that helps create them is not mentioned. Pro wakeboarders will say that wind generated waves are far worse than surfing generated waves, and that's so false. Use your common sense. When's the last time you saw a 4-foot wind generated wave on your lake? How about never? Most Wisconsin lakes are far too small to generate wind waves as large as wakeboat waves. The undulating shoreline has a natural protection from wind waves. The loons nest on the shoreline, naturally protected from the wind. I have an island in front of my house. The loons nest on that every year in the same place. Wake surfing would expose all the shorelines to abnormally large waves. Moving soil from a shoreline takes a certain threshold of energy. Wake boats have the necessary level of energy, while a series of small wind waves do not. Comparing wind waves to wake boat waves is meaningless. So there's some physical laws that govern this, and one of them is that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed from one form to another. So you take a gallon of gasoline and it has a chemical energy in it, and run it through a 600 horsepower wake boat engine, because that's about the size of most of these engines, and transform it into mechanical energy. Where do you think all that mechanical energy is going? The mechanical energy is going into the lake in the form of bottom damage, shoreline damage, to docks and boats, and making the lake unsafe for other users. The science is clear. This is an example where one person's back was seriously injured and their boat damaged from a single enhanced wake. You can see where the windshield's been broken out. She went up off her feet and then landed on her tailbone and wound up in the hospital. This is a dock in Lake Beulah that had stood for 20 years, and now they had wake surf boats out there, and now it's damaged. Aquatic invasive species and water quality issues. They say that the wake boat ballast systems don't transfer any more AS than fishing boats or other watercraft, and that's so false. There's been 2 studies done by that. One by the University of Wisconsin is a Campbell study. They checked 13 boats, and on average, and they were bringing them in for winterization. They checked 13 wake boats, and on average, they had 8 gallons of residual lake water. Some of the wake boats had over 22 gallons of residual lake water. When the water was tested, it contained zooplankton, which is not surprising because all lakes have some zooplankton, but 2 of the boats had zebra mussel larvae. Additionally, the University of Minnesota compared 8 boat compartments. These included things like the live well, the stern drive, ballast tanks, bilge tanks, footwells, and things like that. The median point showed that there was 296 villagers or zebra mussel larvae were found in the ballast systems. The next closest was the stern drive at 13, and the 13 they found in the stern drive are dead because the stern drive engine heats the water up enough to kill them. If a ballasted boat comes from Lake Minnetonka and puts into your lake, there will be a 7 in 10 chance of transferring 100 zebra mussel larvae. Lake Geneva is the first lake in Wisconsin that now is infected with quagga mussel. Currently, prevention is the only way to stop these invasives. Eurasian milfoil can propagate by fragmentation. Think about the 600 horsepower engine that acts like a high pressure washer, weed whacker, cutting up and spreading this invasive. My live well on a boat can be easily cleaned out and drained. It can be decontaminated with a spray bottle. It's readily accessible, can be inspected. There's no special training or equipment needed. I most worry about spiny water fleas, and this is actually since 1980 we knew that ballast water containing aquatic invasive species spiny water fleas was discharged into the St. Lawrence Seaway from European ships. There the invasives made their way into the Great Lakes, and now they're in Wisconsin inland lakes. They compete with juvenile fish for food. They devour beneficial algae-eating organisms. Spines make them hard for the small fish to eat. There's no current way to eliminate them. In the state of Wisconsin, there's more than 30 lakes that have been infected with spiny water fleas. I live in Vilas County, and there's 5 lakes in Vilas County that are infected: Trout, Star, Plum, Ike Walton, and Stormy. There's no way to get rid of them. Quagga mussels, and this is the first infestation was found in Lake Geneva, described as the bigger, badder cousin of the zebra mussel, and they can thrive on soft lake beds and greater densities than zebras. They upset the entire food chain. No practical way to eliminate them. And small fragments, invasive plants can be easily spread. Small fragments can become new infestations. They can be transferred to other parts of the same lake as the ballast tanks are filled and emptied for different surfers, or transferred into a new lake later. Invasives spread easily to areas damaged by prop wash. There's a top picture of Eurasian milfoil, and there's a bottom picture of curly leaf pondweed. The existing law requires complete draining, but they're seldom enforced. You can see NR 19-055, and it says drain all water from the boat, boat trailer, boating equipment, or fishing equipment, including water in any bilge or ballast tank. I do Clean Boat, Clean Water, as I said earlier, as hundreds of people do, and we check for boats at landings to confirm that all the water is drained out of everything, including live wells. But when I asked the warden, the DNR warden, how am I supposed to do this with wake boats, he gave me the answer. He said, because it's not possible to inspect most ballast boats, wake boats have to get a free pass, even though they may contain gallons of water. I said, you got to be kidding. I've been doing this for 7 years, and I could have one wake boat come into my lake, bringing spiny water fleas or zebra or quagga mussels. He said, yep. So this is actually from the wake boat manuals, and if you want this information, I could send it to you, but it's on pages 120 and 121. I'm going to read this because this is really telling. Flushing the ballast tank system. These procedures have been developed to help prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species, especially quagga and zebra mussels, that attach and infest inside ski, wakeboard boat ballast systems and tanks. Flushing the system with hot water, 120 degrees Fahrenheit or greater, kill quagga and zebra mussel juveniles and larvae in seconds, and protect water bodies from any destructive invasive species that hitchhike on trailered watercraft. But here's the problem. In Wisconsin, there's not very many hot water cleaning systems available at your landings. I don't know of any. Maybe you guys have one, but I don't know of any 120 degree hot water cleaning systems available in Wisconsin. And again, how would you know if the ballast systems were cleaned if they can't be inspected? We don't. There's no process in place. This is another part of the manual. And Malibu and Axis Wakeboat Owners Manual say, do not drain the ballast completely to avoid pump damage. This directly violates the Wisconsin law. Ballast pumps will continue working as long as the controls are on. Therefore, operators must ensure the pumping is turned off when the outlets show only a minute amount of water coming out. Leaving the pumps on will result in pump damage, which is not covered under warranty. And by the way, I tried to look up this hyperlink, and for some reason or other, it isn't active anymore, and it looks like somebody took it down. This is from the Nautique manual, and this is for the winterization. They say pour an even amount of antifreeze, approximately 1 gallon, into each ballast tank. This is from the Mastercraft. It says add 2 gallons of propylene glycol antifreeze through the vent hulls to each ballast tank. So if you have 5 ballast tanks on your boat, you're going to have 10 gallons of antifreeze. It gets worse. Then they say upon reactivating a boat the first time after storage, run the ballast system to pump out the antifreeze. The engine must be on and the boat must be in the water. So they're telling you to dump the antifreeze into the water. And this is actually against the law in Wisconsin. It's unlawful to place, leave, discharge waste or waste containers into or near any Wisconsin waters. This includes antifreeze used in winterizing your vessel. Antifreeze, both ethylene glycol and propylene glycol, is now classified as a hazardous waste, just like used motor oil, and it has specific disposal requirements. So the root cause of this is manufacturers have designed a ballast system that don't drain completely. Secondary cause is Wisconsin doesn't enforce the existing law to require complete draining. So what are we doing? Currently, most people are ignoring the threat and then try to remediate it after, but there's no way to eliminate things like spiny water fleas. The second thing is towns try to solve the manufacturer's mistake by maybe considering a decontamination process, but they're really complicated and really expensive. The third thing is the second part, actually, option 2, is towns can adopt ordinance prohibiting the use of ballast until manufacturers solve their own problem and the state has a way to confirm boats comply. This is option 2 is what we're recommending. There's been 2 studies done that the wakeboat industry likes to use in reference. One was the FACE study. Who paid for the study? The National Marine Manufacturer. And then the study was published by a company in Wuhan, China for $997. And it really is not a very good study. It's computer models only. There's no real data. At the end, they made a recommendation 200 feet from shore. Gowdy was another study. Who paid for the study? The Water Sports Industry Association paid for the study. Gowdy was an engineer and he collected the data. I think he did a pretty good job on that. But then the wake sport industry decided to analyze it and they came up with their own conclusions. And they said 200 feet from shore, which is not enough, not anywhere near enough. Pro wakeboarders say don't believe what you see, only believe what we tell you. I ask you to use your common sense and power of observation and believe your own eyes. Wakeboats in the surf mode create a safety hazard to everyone else using the lake. They damage the environment, destroy personal property, and erode the shoreline. It kind of reminds me of cigarettes in the 60s and 70s. Not one single case of throat irritation. So let's talk about your situation and the local ordinance process, protecting the Tri-Lakes in Rome, Wisconsin. So right now, many Wisconsin towns have already enacted ordinance prohibiting enhanced wakes. 54 so far are now in place. 49 wholly prohibit making enhanced wakes. 5 others restrict 700 feet from shore. 39 have been enacted since January of 2024. And they cover about 325 lakes, about 12% of all the lakes that are 50 acres or greater. We expected to have 50 ordinances by July 15th of 2025, so we're ahead of that pace pretty well. And last couple weeks, I had at least 7 presentations in 2 weeks. So people are asking us to do this stuff and asking for help. Nearly all towns use the standard template for their ordinance, and it's reviewed and accepted more than 40 times by the DNR. Doesn't ban the boat. It requires that the boat can't use a ballast or wake shapers to make an enhanced wake. We very strongly recommend using the standard template. This is the actual verbiage from the ordinance. That is probably the most important stuff for you to read and know. And I'm just going to cover 2 points real quick here. The prohibited equipment. No person may use or employ ballast tanks, ballast bags, fins to cause the boat to operate in a bow-high manner, which increases or enhances the boat's wakes. Prohibited operation. This just says I can't drive around the lake using those features in a transition mode to intentionally magnify the wake. The third point, which is certain operations are excluded, this is what is covered on there. The ordinance is a safe harbor for all traditional boating, so all the following are permitted if ballast, wake shapers, or other wake enhancement are not used. So you can water ski, you can tube, and you can wakeboard. Wakeboard with a tow rope. So identifying the path, and your path is very easy. So this is all towns with a shoreline are seeking an identical ordinance. Well, yours is real easy because it's just one town, it's Rome, and you're trying to protect your 3 lakes. So you go down this path and you can proceed with no hearing required. So here's the actual process. So we have one town, all the lakes are wholly within Rome. So here's what we do. You draft an ordinance, condition report, they are prepared, and Last Wilderness Alliance is the best one at doing this. They have submitted over 40 of these to the DNR now, and we have a lot of experience. Then a group can present this to the town, and the town can decide to advance the materials to the DNR for review. The DNR provides a response within 20 days from submission. The town reviews the DNR comments / changes if it chooses. Now, again, we've done this 40 times. It's been vetted through the DNR 40 times. The DNR will make some suggestions, but those are just suggestions. It's up to the town if they want to do that. Right now, our ordinances are going through pretty clean, and they're saying, yep, we're good to go. So I would strongly recommend, if your town is considering this, have us help you with that because we've done it enough times. The town votes on enacting an ordinance, but a town must allow 60 days to pass from submission to the DNR to enact an ordinance. And then the town submits the signed ordinance to the DNR and posts signage at the public landing. Pretty straightforward. So from when you guys submitted it to the DNR to when you can enact it is 60 days. Lake descriptions. The town of Rome Adams County has 3 lakes with a shoreline wholly within the town exceeding 50 acres in size. Arrowhead, Shorewood are not suitable for spiny water fleas. Camelot is undetermined. All lakes already have Eurasian water milfoil and zebra mussels. This is your first lake, and I noticed that it's impaired, but it's Lake Arrowhead, and it's 295 with a 30-foot depth. Next is Lake Camelot, and next is Lake Sherwood, 216 acres. But I looked at the DNR biometric map of your lakes, and you have very narrow lakes, and they're very long lakes. So I don't even know from shoreline to shoreline if you'd have enough room to do any kind of wake surfing. They're not really suitable. Your efforts to take care of your lake are impressive. I was looking through your website, and you guys have done an outstanding job. And I'm told you have 7 of these machines. That's just awesome. I'm glad to see you guys are really watching out and protecting for your lake. And I'm really interested on how the oxygen nanobubbles will help to restore the lakes. But from what I've been reading on and some of the results that you're getting is, and probably most important to me, is that it looks like you're improving the fishing on the lake, which is really great. You improve the water clarity and the increased fish activity. Fantastic. I hope this works out for you. Wake surfing your lakes will undo a lot of the work and money that you're spending to improve your lakes. So I would strongly encourage you to put an ordinance in place. engaging your lake leaders and memberships to work with your town. Last Wilderness Alliance can help with educational presentations, drafting materials. We can draft ordinance, condition report, understanding of the process. Your local team is critical for leadership, generating local support and working with your town. Fred Silloway is in the audience today, and I know Fred has done really good work in Wapaka, and Fred is extremely knowledgeable on all this stuff. So I would encourage you to use him and his expertise because he's really helped Wapaka get theirs through and many other towns. So he's got a lot of great experience with this. No one wants more rules, but, and this is actually from the Mastercraft Rule the Water Tour. When one boat can dictate where and when you can fish, health of fish and wildlife habitats, water quality, likelihood of invasives, if you need riprap, your shore, modify your dock, lift your boats, the safety and enjoyment of all and others near the water. I'm not going to have one person or 3% of the boating population tell me that I have to do this stuff. Thank you for the opportunity to present. I'm doing this because I'm a fisherman, and I know a lot of people are saying that we're just rogue environmentalist, but I'm really not. I'm a fisherman and I love to fish and I want to protect my lakes because that's why I retired, to come up here and enjoy the beautiful lakes in the North Woods and catch some fish. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, my name's Brad Atkins. Have you had any rejections from the DNR as far as what you presented them for approval?
We've had some conversations with the DNR, but as far as outright rejections, the rejections a lot of times were coming in the way we were doing border lakes. And that seemed to get more complicated. A lot of the times with your lakes, your tri-lakes, you're easy because they're wholly within the town of Rome. And it should be a pretty straightforward process. So to answer your question, with the straightforward process like you guys have, if we're going to do the ordinance, I would expect it to go through quite easily.
And that's with the same template that you were discussing. Perfect. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Folks? Yeah.
So,
You want to try? Well, we don't. Yeah, try it up there.
can you hear me? Hello? It's on. So what's the response from the wakeboard industry? Have they challenged any of these? Has there been any lawsuits? Can you give us some color on that?
Sure. There's a lawsuit that's pending in the town of Scott, and this was for two guys or three people that issued a lawsuit, and they were from Florida and Texas, and they were saying that they wanted to. They say we were violating their constitutional rights, and they were challenging the the local control, the ability for the towns to do a local control ordinance. That's what they were challenging. So what we've done on that now is we're helping them as a interceder, and we're helping the town attorney, and we're helping them with technical data and legal support. We have a legal team, and I know there's at least 2 lawyers from our group on it, and the legal team has another 2 lawyers, Lawton and Gates, and we're there to support the town to protect their rights to enact a local control ordinance, because that's what this is all about. The town did not want people wake surfing on a lake that's only has a 6 feet mean depth and a maximum depth, I think, of 13 feet. That's just not deep enough for wake surfing, and that's what this was about. It was the town's right to enact this ordinance to try to protect their lakes, and that's what they were doing, and that's what these people are filing a lawsuit against. So this is ongoing, and we will fight this thing, and I think that I just don't see how somebody could overrule the right of a town to enact a local control ordinance.
It's important to recognize, too, that the suit that he's referring to was probably ordinance number 50 out of 54 ordinances. It was passed in November of 2024. The first ordinance was passed in 2009. So 49 ordinances had not been challenged. Suddenly one in. It wasn't brought by the wake surfing industry or the boat manufacturers. It was brought by a couple of rich dudes that are throwing a tantrum.
I have a question about the enforcement of the ordinances once they're in effect. Do you have any data or statistics as to the boat patrols or whatever that may be on the lakes, and if they are writing citations, are the municipal judges or the county judges penalizing these folks?
Okay, good question. There's some people that use a boat patrol. Lake Ripley is one that ordinance that I worked on, and they have a boat patrol there. And they had a boat patrol before the ordinance was enacted, so it was a natural for them, just a continuation. Most towns rely on their town board to issue citations, and in most cases, when you have a sign posted and the surf people see this, they obey the sign. 95% of the people, if you say you can't surf on their lake, they don't do it. I mean, there'll be a rogue person from time to time that does it. Our suggestion is with the town board, and this is real easy to do. We actually have a work instruction on how to do this, but it's all based in Wisconsin statutes. You can issue a citation to somebody as a member of the town board, but our recommendation first would be to find out who that person is, and then issue a letter saying, hey, maybe you didn't realize it, but you're surfing on our lake right now, and this is now our ordinance now prohibits this activity. And kind of don't start with a citation, start with a letter, a kind of a warning letter, and then go further at the next step. If you need to issue a citation, that would be kind of step 2, not step 1. I think that would be a better way, and that's what we're proposing that most towns should do. Again, we have a work instruction that covers how to do that. When we get down the road with you guys, we can provide that work instruction. This is the way most towns are doing it, and so far so good. I know we have several good letters of recommendation from towns that have done this. Harrison is one town, and they have enacted the ordinance now. This is going on the second year. The first year went great, and the people were so happy that they had this ordinance in place. And Lake Ripley, they're another one. They've had the ordinance in place, no issues. Fred had some experience in that, and he may have the one bad dude of all of them that created some problems. But I think Fred said it well. He told me, he said, we had 10 wake surfers on the lake before. Now we only have 1, so the problem's 90% solved. So they're working on the one other guy, but 90% of it is fixed. So it's a process.
Are you relying on citizens then to report the registration numbers of these wake boats, or how is the town board being informed that these people continue to wake surf when the ordinance is in effect?
What happens is when a wake surfer decides to violate the ordinance and goes out, my phone blows up with photos and videos that citizens on the lake have seen. And all I need is some registration numbers, a little bit of static photography or video, and then we can forward that on to our sheriff's department in Waupaca County. Not a single citation has been issued at all. Most of the time, people voluntarily comply because they want to be good neighbors. There's a social contract. And who wants to stand on the street corner on a Saturday afternoon in front of the whole world and violate an ordinance? So they really do self-enforce. In the event that there was a bad boy and you warned appropriately, you've got the video evidence, the town board or any of its assigned delegates can issue a citation. The receiver of the citation then has to appear in court. They almost never do. And then they get the fine plus court costs, so the first offense is around $750. The second offense goes up to about $1,500. Nobody wants to waste their money doing that.
The fines that you had just discussed, are those fines that are set forth by the ordinance itself, or is there's no state fines in the...
There are state guidelines, but it's written into the ordinance that you will adopt, that the first offense is $500, the second offense is $1,000.
I was really surprised and impressed with how fast, once you have a boat registration number, that you can get the owner's information. A simple call to the DNR, and in 5 minutes I had all the information I needed to send somebody a letter, a warning letter, for example, saying that this activity is prohibited. So once you have the boating registration number and you send somebody a letter, I'd be really surprised if you see them again doing the same activity.
Okay, thank you.
We're kind of fortunate. Our police department here has 2 patrol boats, and we have a municipal court right here. So we're pretty well covered in that respect. And we started this
You guys are set up better
process.
than most.
We started this process about 3 years ago, actually, about talking about wake boats, and we did a study back then, and it kind of got ignored in the last administration. But back then, we were getting, threatened, we were going to get sued. Yeah, go ahead, give it a shot. Because I read the ordinance, the state statute, and we're pretty well protected in that respect. So,
In Wapaka, we were threatened multiple
Yeah.
times. Pass the ordinance,
yeah.
the next day people are water skiing and tubing and wakeboarding with a rope and doing their cocktail hour cruises. Life went on. There were never any suits.
Yeah. Also, we did a lot of studying back then, too. I think it was up in Jeff's area, some of the studies they had. But there was a couple of them that really stuck me as being very relevant. There was one on the physics just of the wakes themselves and the amplitude and what happens. It's just a totally different wake than what you get from typical boats. There was another one, I read an article, it was put out by the boating industry, and I went through it on their notes, and it had to do a lot of digging, but they were actually using a test done on a boat in 1964. And I thought, this is nuts. That's what they were doing. So it's, the science behind what you've been talking about is much stronger than anything else we've seen out from the industry.
Yeah, the last boat I actually saw had 1,000 horsepower's worth of engines. They had 2 engines on it. It was 1,000 horsepower, 40 feet long, and about 20,000 pounds. And I can't even imagine a boat like that in our lake.
And we've had a lot of complaints from boaters, kayakers, canoe. I mean, once there's wake boats out there, everybody else pretty much clears out because it's their lake. We're done. And we've had a lot of instances. My wife actually had a leg fracture from a wake boat when it hit our boat sideways. We didn't see it coming. Knocked her out of the seat, and she had a fracture in her leg. That was a few
Wow.
years ago, but yeah, go ahead.
Also, as far as safety, Dan Goldman,
Yeah.
a wave came over, literally dented the fencing around the front of his pontoon boat. Can you imagine if there was someone in the water and that wave hit them? And another individual whose small dog, they were, just had the dog in the water, and when that wave came in, pulled that dog under, and it makes you wonder too, what if there was just a toddler, in the water? When that wave came in, it just pulled the dog under. So there's a lot of safety concerns as well as the environmental issues.
Yeah, we've done a lake condition report also. It's pretty extensive, but I'll forward it on to you folks so you can doctor it up. But it did a lot of studying on there. And when you start reading it, you say, holy cow! You see what's up.
Yeah, when you guys are ready, give us a word. We can help you with the ordinance, the condition report, and transmittal letters.
Okay. Well,
And we also have examples of signage, so.
this will be an issue for the town board, but we've already sent a recommendation in that they follow through on it, and I'm pretty sure, knowing that a few of us have a little bit influence, that it'll go through. We will be working on it. What do you think?
Okay.
Any other questions, any other thoughts, please? Now's the time.
I just think it was a great presentation, and I think the town board will look forward to working with you to adopt something that'll be in effect as an ordinance. It was really.
You guys do so much good work with your lakes right now, and it's a shame to see them wrecked by wake surfing. I see all the money and effort you're putting into it to try to get your lakes in really good shape, and I'm glad to see you guys doing this.
Jeff, this is Mark Samuelson. I know I was scheduled to come up and meet with you on the 27th, 28th of this month. That was before I found out Fred was a lot closer than you.
Yep.
If Fred would be willing to sit down and talk with me so we come up with a plan and a schedule on what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, would that be?
I think that'd be fantastic. I think Fred's a very capable guy of doing all this stuff.
Just an opinion also. 2 years ago, we did a survey, and it came back 82% were in favor of restrictions. Mark was thinking we might want to update that. I don't know if we go through that process again. It was not inexpensive. Yeah.
There's not a survey that's been done in the state of Wisconsin that has less than 75% support.
Yeah.
So your 82% is consistent with what we had in Wapaka at 86%. So Doesn't surprise me. And the numbers aren't going to change if you do that.
Was yours one where you just asked one question? I heard, oh, I read that one, yeah.
I don't see a need to do another survey, in my opinion. I mean, that was only a few years ago, and, I mean, like you said, it's expensive and everything, but I don't see that the results are gonna change.
Yeah, it was modified from what that board that I was on, what we presented, it was modified, but it's still, the results came back as expected, pretty much, so. It wasn't biased, it was just asking questions.
Carol, I know you and I talked about, before we adopt a town ordinance, I think, so, I think we should have a town meeting and invite all the residents and have Jeff or Fred do a presentation to everybody.
We need a bigger room.
Oh, I'm looking at.
I know, that holds 200.
Yeah.
Or 400 standing, I don't know. We had it packed for the State of the Lakes, this might be bigger.
Yeah. But I think that would be appropriate.
Thoughts?
It's optional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know your community. We're happy to come and appear and provide more resources and presentations. It's your call.
Yeah, that'd be under the direction of the town board, but I see his point too, so, yeah. Any other thoughts out there or comments? Yay, nay? Any nays? I didn't think so.
Other lakes that have boat patrol issues, have the law enforcement people supported this, knowing that, you know, their boat patrol people are gonna have to, you know, be making the stops on the lakes, you may give them a warning the first time, or whatever the case might be. Is law enforcement supportive of these type of ordinances?
I can answer that. In Vilas County, they're not so supportive, but they didn't say they wouldn't support it. They just are, they said they're strapped, they don't have enough people, and I don't think they're gonna do anything unless you pay them to do it. So I think it does come down to where they don't necessarily have the resources, and, you know, you're gonna have to pay if you wanna have this service done. So I understand their position, and there's not many people, I only know of a couple of those, of the 54 ordinances that actually have a contract with the town. I think Crystal Lake in the town of Rhine has established a contract with their local sheriff to do the issuing of the citations, but up here in Vilas County, we're handling it on our own, and it seems to be working fine. So I don't know that even you'd want to go through that expense unless you see that you've got a real problem, because it seems to be going pretty well with having the town board issue citations if necessary, and I think it's working that way pretty well so far.
Our police are town employees, so.
Yours are town employees, okay.
Yep.
And we have, they take on additional part-timers during the summer to do
Yeah.
nothing but boat control.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, boat control.
And in Wapaka, our water patrol is run by the sheriff's department, but it's heavily subsidized with funds from the DNR. And that requires the water patrol to engage X amount of hours on the water patrolling and engaging in warnings and citations.
Yeah, we do get grants also from the DNR for our boat patrol, so there's a lot of recovery.
This gives the water patrol another opportunity to engage and control behavior, because often that also extends into safety checks.
Yeah.
Let's see if your battery strapped, life jackets, sitting on goggles, distance from shore, and it corrects behavior on many fronts.
We do get DNR out here on boats occasionally, and as well as county. Have you ever seen them enforce any of these also, or are they just kind of bypass?
The DNR cannot enforce
Yeah, okay.
local ordinances, only state statutes. The wardens tell me that if they see any unsafe behaviors, whether it's covered by statute or ordinance, they will engage the operator of the boat. And they can document, provide testimony, and then a citation, if it's a serious issue, would be followed up separately via town board and or police or the mail.
I can say that the Wisconsin statutes, however, have not kept up with the technology of these wake surf boats. I mean, who could imagine a 4.4-foot wake behind a boat that's intentionally created and driving around the lake? And our statutes, there's 4 or 5 of them that exist. They just don't cover this. So it is up to a lot of local communities to protect their lakes as they see best fit.
I think we're good. Thank you. That was very informative.
Okay. Anything else then?
No, it is on the agenda for tomorrow night on the town board too. It was kind of an update on the wake ordinance, so it'll be mentioned at the least, but they'll probably be moving forward from there. So,
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome. And we look forward to hearing from you guys, and we'll help you however we can.
you bet. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
And Mr. Silloway for taking the time to drive over here to be present for this.
Pleasure. My wife
Thank
and
you,
I
Fred.
leave the house every now and then.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other thoughts, comments, folks? All righty. Number 9, nano bubbler update. Mark, got anything on that?
Yeah, the nano bubbler up for, yes, sir. As of today, the nano bubbler's been operating for 2 weeks. It's pumped approximately 50 million gallons of treated water. We have had one downtime, which lasted approximately 4.5 hours. We had a filter blockage. The other manager and I covered it with help from Moliere with their satellite management from California. System is operating correctly now. The management district has also helped by providing a harvester that can back flush the area with the paddles. On the harvester and the water flow, it has a way of clearing the filters. We've increased the pressure on the wash system almost to max right now. We believe everything's going to be fine. As far as the neo bubblers go, we continue to install the systems. We have 2 on the ground. One will be ready to light up on Friday. There's a lot of logistics involved in getting these up, with coordination with electrical peers, owners, install situation, just a lot of details. Each one is uniquely different, and all 10 of those units are located on Sherwood. So we hope that by next month, we will have most of them up and running. A month from today, we hope that most of them will be up and running.
Thank you. And
I got
go ahead.
questions.
Mark?
Sir, so on the big unit, where is it clogging as far as, are you talking on the intake?
The intake filter is under the pier. It is 11 foot 4 inches long, 27 inches in diameter. It has a wash nozzle inside the screen, which forces weeds and debris away from the screen so that a main pump can continuously draw water in, and that water is being drawn in at a rate of 2,400 gallons per minute, and discharged obviously at the same rate.
So what are you seeing as far as it clogging weeds?
The blockage that we found on it the other day was cottonseed, pollen, weed, algae, a combination that had accumulated on the screens, so it couldn't draw enough water in. thus it shut it down, caught by California, notified to us. We were on it within an hour, and correction was within,
But is it pulling it from the surface, what's like floaters and stuff like that getting into it? Is it pulling it from the surface down into it, or?
when you are there and witnessing,
What we can do to maybe prevent,
Mike and I, the other manager, we've discussed possibly a screen around the docks that would help keep stuff from floating in. We haven't made up our mind yet. We've got a couple other things going on. Moliere has asked that we change the discharge head to improve the efficiency of it. We're waiting for their technical specs to build a new head. Right now, we're operating the way they told us to. And we are approximately 15% above the capacity that they thought we would be at.
what does that mean?
They had anticipated that we would be producing 2,000 gallons per minute. As of our modification the other day, we're producing 2,440 gallons per minute. So it's a larger volume of water that's going through being treated. That water has approximately 62% dissolved oxygen content, and that's what's being discharged into the lake. And that's the 50 million gallons in the last 2 weeks. For comparison's sake, the amount of water that is flowing in the 14-mile creek into the lake at that point is approximately 24 million gallons per day. So our treatment is much less than the volume coming in, but the concentration of the nutrients or the nitrogen, phosphates, whatever, is low enough that we are counteracting all of that with the oxygen that's being produced.
I have a couple questions.
Sir?
Is it by increasing what was the sprayer that's inside the screen?
Correct.
What kind of pressures was that set at
We
before you increased them? Because I guess what I'm looking at is it going to be necessary for that weed harvester to come down there every day, every week, just to do any flushing on that screen?
We were operating at 58 pounds per square inch on the sprayers that flush the filters clean. Prior to our blockage, we changed the freak drive and the operating capacity of that wash motor. We're now operating at 65 pounds per square inch, which is a greater volume, more effective at flushing the screens. Our impression is that the things that are plugging the filters vary by the day, by the wind, you tell me. And so we have asked that the harvesters, when they pass by there, if they would, whether it's once a week or every couple days, to spend a couple moments there and do a flush around them.
Okay, because that's the first I've heard of that request.
We had talked to the operator on the day of our
Okay. 'Cause
issue.
I don't know that they related to the office or to the
That-
management people.
that may be my
I'll
fault.
take that back. Also, has there been a different design and manufacture for the covers for the Neo units? I understood that BDT was the one that was selected earlier.
That is correct.
But is there something different now?
We've gone through 3 revisions to accommodate the Neo units because there's some slight variations in the measurements and to facilitate maintenance of the filters, the pumps, and the different discharge locations. We have made revisions to that cabinet. BDT has been very cooperative, and I don't think they've changed the price on us at all. It's been about once a week we ask for a revision. As we gain knowledge, we know what we have to do to it. We're running into issues with the piers too for the Neo units. Both of our suppliers have different styles of piers. Some of them you can remove the decks from the top. It allows us to work on them one way. Other piers, the tops are not removable, so we have to work alongside of them and under them. So it's a learning experience for our team. Something that on that note, I had asked one of our suppliers what their insurance policy was, and they are fully covered, and I think they sent that to the board or to the district by email maybe. Did you get an email that showed what their policy was? And I have not had the opportunity to talk to the other supplier yet to do the same. We felt that we wanted to make sure there was no liability for the district or for the management district. And just in the event that there were any kind of a problem with the piers.
Mark, what is the rate that BDT can supply the cabinets or the covers for those Neo units?
Right now, they are predicting they can supply 2 covers per week, and the owner of BDT has said they might be able to go above and beyond that. He sends them out for epoxy painting so they're not a gloss aluminum finish. They end up being a sand color when he brings them back to us. So we're satisfied with what we're getting from BDT.
Thank you.
He's also gotten 2 orders from Minnesota from Chad Wilson over there, Restore. He's looking for 2 more cabinets. So he's going to have some business once this all gets approved.
Okay.
Mark, what have you decided on the meters for electric?
Right now, Econ Electric, who is the only contractor who submitted a return to the board, has told us that the power meter is going to cost $400. It's a Leviton meter. It'll be guaranteed to operate for 2 years and maintained. The meter being $400 installation costs, I honestly don't know what they are. I did a little research the other day and I found an Amazon power meter for $15, and I ordered one, and I will be testing it to see if it's at all possible that will serve the purpose. The reason they're asking about the power meters is every person who has volunteered to take a Neo unit is putting it on their power. We're anticipating the cost of a Neo unit to operate for a month to be approximately $240, significantly more than your monthly bill is, and Tri-Lakes Management will reimburse, but the power meter tracks how much power we're using. Okay? Sir?
So, Moliere is 24/7 monitoring?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so when there's an issue, then they,
It's a satellite monitoring, and we had a link problem up till the other day. That's been resolved as far as they're getting back to Mike and myself. That has been resolved, but you don't know until something happens. And
thanks.
Mark, with that other Amazon meter that you're looking at, will Econ install that?
they will, but they will not guarantee it. All Econ had told me is the one that they're supplying, a recognized manufacturer, United States based. They can guarantee it. The one I'm ordered, I'm reasonably certain it's not manufactured in this country. And apologies, but we should be able to put it on alongside of Econ's meter. I should be able to test it prior to that on my own service on usage. And if it gives the results I expect, we might be able to eliminate that $400 to $600 cost of installing a power meter on everybody's Neo unit. But if you have recommendations, I'm all ears.
What do you guys think?
I guess it can't hurt for Mark to test the one that he ordered and see how that works and
That's the accuracy
go
of
for
it.
there.
Yep.
You know, being with the electrician background and stuff, I'm sure he's more than qualified to test the meter.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Well, one more question. I don't know, maybe this is more for Carl than it is for you.
You used up your questions.
Yesterday, I believe it was, that it looked like the University of Stevens Point was down taking water samples. I don't know if you saw them down there. Is this going to eliminate EOR from taking the samples themselves and, sending us an expensive bill every month? And the buoys that are in the various spots around, are those still monitored by EOR, or is Stevens Point going to take over that as well?
Yeah, actually, the monitoring by the Stevens Point is going to cut our bill in half with EOR. EOR came up with the suggestion because of their cost, travel time, people coming out here at their rates. But we do have a contract with University of Wisconsin Stevens Point for the 3 graduate students. They'll be out here weekly doing the testing. The monitoring buoys that are there will still be monitored, as far as I know, by EOR, but I believe that's electronic anyway. The students will be out there doing different water testing that still has to go up to the lab up in St. Cloud, Minnesota. So, again, St. Cloud will get it back to us within a matter of weeks versus sending it down to Madison. It's going to take 2 years to get results. So,
I have met the individuals you speak of, that is Ryan and Lizzie. They collect the data, take it back to Stevens Point Environmental, log it, and that will create the record of, I believe, 18 different parameters of the water that will prove what it was before, what it is now, and what it is, 6 months down the road. And that will supposedly create the data that will tell the DNR that what we are doing is working or otherwise. But all information we have is this system definitely works. DNR restricted us to 14% of the recommended volume of treatment. So instead of having a 3 to 4 year visible results, at 14%, I guess we could figure that 10 to 12 years down the road, they've extended the timeline for results, but the testing should be able to tell a different story. It should be able to verify that what we're doing is working, and if the DNR is okay with that, maybe they'll remove restrictions, and at that point give us permission to advance our efforts.
Yeah, I have a question for Carl then. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks for everything, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Great job.
Can you explain what happened with you and the attorney when you went down to talk to Land and Water? I'm assuming it was Dustin Grant, and what happened there, and as well from the big unit as well as the Neo units?
Yeah, Dustin was of the opinion that the unit is a structure, although we disagreed. We probably could have fought it. We may win, who knows, but it would set us back. So far, it would be probably 2 years before we get the any resolution down there. So talking to the attorney, we decided it was probably best to not contest it and go ahead. What we did do is the attorney's working on the permits right now, and he's going to do 2, one for the same area, and we're going to take a chance that we might get all the property owners there to agree to it. That's possible. That'll be our easiest move then. We still have to move the unit back about 50 foot. If not, we're applying for the permit for the other side of the channel on the parking area. There is room there for it. We'll have that staked out. So we're going to apply for both permits. The other thing is we do expect it's going to take a while to get information back from the homeowners there. I guess there's around 60. But we are going to contact all of them and see if we can get permission from all of them. If we can, we're just going to move the unit back there. So Jared's working on that right now as boardman, so he's been very effective. And to be honest with you, Dustin's been very cooperative, allowing us to run the units while we're in process of working on the permits for him. So Dustin's been very helpful. And we had no problem getting the Schedule 30. That went through. The 109 went through, and Dustin's gave us a county permit that's good for 5 years. We just have to renew it at that point for where we're at now.
Did we get anything in writing from the county stating that they're allowing us to run big containers as long as we're going through the process?
Nothing in writing that I know of unless Jared's got something, but again, Jared was on that call, so we've got pretty good resource.
I understand that, but
I can ask him, but
myself, I would prefer something in writing from the county saying that they're allowing us to run the big units due to the fact we're going through the permitting process.
I don't know that they'll put it in writing, but I'll ask Jared.
Well, just on touching on the point of utilizing the beach club area that we're using now. Okay, so we get everybody that's, they say, yeah, by all means do it, we move it back. What happens if, a new owner comes in and they say absolutely not? Are we going to be refacing this then again, or?
Yeah, that was brought up as a potential problem, so it's something he's researching to see if you can get the permission to follow through for a time frame. So we don't know.
I just don't,
that's
it would be
valid.
awesome if we could just
Yep.
move it back 50
Yeah.
feet or whatever, and instead of having to move it and the additional expense. But I'm also worried about somebody coming in, 3 years down the road and say, I don't want this here. I'm
Yeah.
a part owner. Get it out of here. Are we going to be facing that thing again down the road? So,
One of the issues this has brought up, though, is that over time, we're still looking at 3 or 4, maybe 5 more big units. Where do we go with them?
right.
If we can't put them on beach clubs, it has to be owned property or something along that line. So that'll probably affect Moyer's whole project and how we move forward with all this. So, because there would be issues unless the county wants to let us use some of their land for these units, but I kind of doubt that too. But that's opens up a whole different spectrum, I guess, of what we're going to end up with. But in any case, the little units are a go from the county, and once the DNR approves, I don't see a problem with those proliferating everywhere. So we may have to use more of the small units. We don't know.
Mark, you had your hand up.
The only thought I had there was to Brad's question about a future owner. When you buy a property, it's contingent upon the existing facts at the time of sale. You've accepted the fact that you're buying the property with its appurtenances or its agreements, and so you've accepted. It should be workable.
Yeah, Jared's looking to see if that's enforceable, but he thinks it might be, but it is a valid point. So everything has to be considered. So we're kind of counting on the fact too that maybe since we have to contact 60 people or so, it might take a while. So they are allowing us to run the big unit until we are able to move it, but that might not be till the end of the season. So we'll wait and see. I mean, he's working on it. So
Our installation, we had one individual from the beach club on 8th Avenue there question our affecting the value of their property by putting that on the beach club. And they didn't know what it did. When we explained to them the value to the lake that added and the improvement to the lake, improving their property value, they were satisfied and they let it go at that.
yeah.
Can I ask one more thing? Carl, I want to just thank you for everything that you've done so far, but you have a lot of stuff in your head that the rest of the board probably doesn't have any idea of. Is there a way that you could keep the other board members maybe informed of things that are going on, but like behind the scenes that you know of that we might not hear of for a month?
I don't know how to do it without creating quorum issues. And that's always in the back of my mind is when I want to send a note out, I won't send it out to each of you. I'll send it through
Right,
Regina,
and then
or
I
I'll send
can
it
send
even
it to
in
them.
the town through Wendy. But I've always got to think about quorum issues when I'm discussing. Usually on informational stuff, it shouldn't be an issue, so, but I'll keep that in mind.
Thank you.
You bet. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Yes.
I've been following this project online on your Tri-Lakes website, going back to last year. And unless I'm missing it, the last revised project plan is dated like October of last fall. I think there's been substantial changes to the implementation plan and schedule over time. Is there updated project plan documents available?
It's been going out on news and notices,
News and notices?
so if you're signed up
Yeah.
to receive, when you sign up for our website, it gives you a choice of what you want to receive, like minutes and agendas. So if you're signed up for news and notices, that's what a lot of it is
But you
going out
should be
as.
able to go on the
Yeah.
website and specifically look for, is that what you're saying? You're
Yeah, I
going
looked
right on
under
the site?
projects, and then it comes down and it has a revised, October revised plan that had a lot of really nice documents and a
Yeah.
map that showed, you know, where all the units were going. And it seems like there's been fairly substantial changes.
The map really hasn't changed much. Our timing has, but I thought we just didn't we just put one out there last month? I thought we
On
updated
news
that.
and notice, yeah.
On news notice, okay, but we'll take into we'll keep it going, yeah. But the timing has been, modified, but,
Yeah, this update 7 is the one that's like, which is where this came from, yeah.
so. Anything else on nanobubbles? All right. 14-mile watershed, Dave?
As Carl mentioned earlier, we held the State of Our Lakes Forum on June 7th. We were very pleased with attendance. We came up with a head count at about 275. It was almost standing room only. We were bringing in extra chairs. So with a little luck, maybe by next year, the stage might be out of that room and give us a little extra seating capacity. The takeaways from this year's forum were the buzzwords are nanobubbles and biochar. So I think that was a good forum. I'd be glad to get any feedback from the board. Most I think everyone who's here today was there, so I appreciate that. Also appreciate Tri-Lakes being a sponsor, a co-sponsor of the forum, the financial assistance of the board, which is ultimately the town of Rome residents is very much appreciated, and did generate a little bit of interest in healthy lakes buffers again. So I'll be following up on those. Any questions?
It was a great show and informational setting. It was-
I thought it was really good information. I was pleased. I thought Ann's presentation was really good and at a level most of the audience could relate to. So
Well, I think.
it worked out well, and the big screen that we rented was pretty inexpensive, and that was big improvement, I think.
I mean, I think the only, and it's not a negative by any stretch of the word, but the information that was put out seemed to generate a lot of questions that I wish we had more time, for those questions to be addressed as opposed to just 2 questions and moving. I know, you're under a time constraint and everything like that, but it just seemed like there were a lot of hands that went up that had questions, and it was,
that we could build that in. We're talking about time frame for next year already,
Yeah,
so.
and that's, honestly, I see that, the questions as a positive, you know, directly reflective of the information that's put out. People are interested in everything. And to me, I like to hear the questions because it may be something that, you know, I might have a question on or something, but it just seems like.
Absolutely,
And I
as long as they stay on topic and don't go way out in left
Yeah,
field,
and
we're.
I understand you could probably
yep,
get questions, you know,
absolutely.
a half hour on each topic and everybody would be there for 5 hours, but I don't know how you get around that.
Yeah.
That's just, you know, an observation that I had. It was a great presentation all
Okay.
around.
Okay, thanks, Brad.
Yeah, Gus gave me 1 minute and tell him I got 30 seconds coming yet. Anyway. Thanks, Dave. Mike, harvester update?
All the boats are working except for number 7, which is our smaller boat that normally does the channel. Right now, we have it on Walden, and it's been overheating after it runs for about 3 hours. Then it needs to shut it down, let it cool off, and then it will start back up again. Kubota techs have been down there to assist us a couple of times with this boat, and it's all in the cooling system. They are probably there right now working with one of our employees to try and figure out why this thing is overheating. So hopefully they will come up with an answer and we'll have that boat back in service so that we can finish up Walden and move that boat back into the channel. Barley bags, we still have plenty of barley bags left. We have about 40 of them, so we're hoping people will still come and pick those up. Otherwise, they're going to be disposed of, and next year we would consider ordering less since we'd have about 40 or so remaining at the shop. And finally, we're taking in currently about 6 loads a day. We've taken in 35 loads of weed since June 2nd, and that amounted to about 51,785 pounds.
And what they're doing at the transfer site, they're now mixing the weeds in with the leaves and making a little better compost on it, and he's going to actually start selling it, so kind of interesting. Thanks, Mike. Yes?
The other week, I reported to Brad about the bubbler not working, because actually another citizen reported it to me, and I said, well, I don't know, I don't drive across that dam. The bubbler being the one from Camelot down to Sherwood at the far end. And I was just wondering if that harvester crew could keep an eye on it a little more, because obviously they're parking right by it and just say, hey, it's not working. Could Alex or Brad go and check it? Because it hadn't been reported other than.
Right. That's a good idea. In fact, we've talked to that's boat number 6 down there, and just to, you know, see, I've asked them a number of times, you know, what are you seeing out there and things like that, but that's a great idea to just, if they do notice it, make that part of their routine when they get out there in the morning. Can you see that thing bubbling? If not, then let us know, so.
And
Yeah,
who
because I
should we
doubt you
report it?
or Alex go across that
Right
every
to me.
day. Thank you, Carl.
Thanks. Number 12, district update.
I've got some updates on the Camelot, Lower Camelot Dam. The county, Colton from the county and I went out there. We met the service rep from the manufacturer of our dam actuator. He did dive into it pretty extensively, and he ordered a new motor with capacitors, starters that, you know, start the motor up. To hopefully take care of the issue. Right now, it's still in a manual mode, and Alex and I are able to manually open and close the gate. So if that motor does not take care of it, then it's going to need a whole new actuator assembly, and that is essentially everything that you see, the stem with the motor and the gauge tube and everything to be replaced at a much more extensive cost to the county. But we should be getting a new motor in within the next week or so, and hopefully that takes care of it.
If the actuator or the gate needs to be replaced.
Gate?
The gate, the actuator with the gate, okay? What's gonna happen to Lower Camelot?
Well, the actuator and the gate is not going to be replaced or touched. This actuator will actually, you know, you unbolt the old one, we can even leave it at the same, you know, level where it is now, the amount that the gate's open. They just unbolt it, take the whole thing off, bring the new one in, and it will bolt right into place. And after that's bolted down, then we do have to go in and set, you know, the parameters on how much it's gonna open and how much it's gonna close. If it turns out, and it doesn't seem to be anything, you know, remotely tied to the actual gate itself, but for instance, if that gate has to be replaced, then we're talking a whole nother ball game as far as, I mean, because that gate's, you know, closer to the bottom, and in order to get to that gate, that would be draining the whole thing, you know, down to get to that gate to replace it. The symptoms and the fact that we're able to manually open and close, it's nothing related to the actual gate mechanism. It's just what controls the gate is what we're talking about might need to be replaced.
And in reference to Brian's comments about the bubbler, can you just tell him what you did to rectify that problem?
Alls I did was went up to the opening at the pipe, and it's the upper pipe that's on the Camelot side. That thing was totally blocked with sticks, leaves, I mean, everything. And I can just go in there, and if I can't move it by my hand, I can take a pry bar or something and get in there and, you know, move it up on shore. If you just, you know, move it back into the water, it's just gonna reclog. I've had to do that a number of times already. Typically in, you know, the fall or the spring, when the leaves are all, you know, active and or falling off the trees and the current and all that stuff. So it's something that has to be done throughout the year. And it's not that hard to do. We just gotta, you know, if we know about it, we can go there and do it. So, any other questions? Any questions from anybody? All right, thank you.
You want me, okay. All right, regarding Clean Boats, Clean Waters, for the past few months, as normal, I've been calling the Nakusa High School, now I can't think of the title of the lady I talked to, but she did not, weekly I called, she did not return my calls, not once. So closer to the last minute, someone gave me the idea of calling Adams Friendship High School, and I spoke with them, and they were going to send out a news blast to the juniors and seniors that we were looking for Clean Boats interns. Did not get anything from that. So I have two people, I think one's fourth year returning and one's the third year returning. We have a grant for 200 hours for each of the 3 boat landings. So I only have 2 interns. If I separate them into the 3 boat landings, we won't make 200 hours. So I have them set up at the 2 busier boat landings, which is Sherwood and Arrowhead. And they switch, so they're not always at the same place. But so we only have the 2 boat landings being covered. And I talked to everybody I knew. I called the DNR, see if they had anybody they could suggest. I tried everything and got no takers. So I did have a third person who did want the job a couple months ago, the wife of a harvester. She quit at the last minute, the day of the training. So that's sort of why I'm shorted. That's it.
Well,
We post it out locally, like on the Nextdoor
Nextdoor,
app, and
newspaper.
Facebook and all that stuff.
Our website, yep.
every year it's a struggle, yeah.
$20 an hour, I tell you.
Yeah, for sitting there, yeah. Thanks, Gina. Number 13, County, Wisconsin DNR and/or 9-key element update.
I have some county things to present. Mark and I met with Cynthia Haggard, who is the county administrator, as well as Colton from Land and Water, who's the department head there. And I had talked to them about increasing our dam money, that we would get maybe an additional $1,000 a year, taking up to about $11,000, which would then cover all the additional expenses that we have to sometimes do above and beyond the $10,000 that they allocate to us. I was told that they will consider that, but I need to send, or somebody needs to send them a letter requesting that extra $1,000. Now, I don't know if, Carl, if you want me to write the letter, I'd be glad to, or if you want to handle that, or however, but they need the letter sometime by the first week in July. And I think it's just plain and simple, we're just requesting an extra $1,000 be budgeted for our dam operations. The other thing is that when Mark and I were there, we were told that Heather Gayton's contract or grant with the county is going to be sunset in August, whenever the time frame is up for that. They did indicate that the county is still going to assist in all of our water issues that we're dealing with here. And they would like to possibly make a permanent position with the county, a full-time position for the agronomist or person that's going to take over Heather's position if Heather would not be reappointed or rehired to fill that position. They said once it sunsets, they would, if it's approved by the county board to fund that full-time position, they would then send out a hiring notice, and anyone that would be interested could apply, and then they would do their interview process or whatever, then hire somebody to fill that position. Heather would also be able to apply if she chose to do so, but yeah, her grant is going to sunset in August. I know that Dave sent Cynthia a letter regarding his concerns and supporting Heather about, the position, and she did give you a very long response, but I think that indicated that the county was still in favor of continuing all the programs that Heather was involved in to ensure that, the work that she's done continues in the future.
It's her or not.
Whether it's her or not. I don't know if there's anything else, Dave, that you wanted to add to that.
No, I mean, the response we got was pretty detailed. They had a lot to do with getting grant money and debt cap and all those kinds of issues. So hopefully those sources of funds are out there and can be made available.
Yeah, I think they were looking at 25% from Tri-Lakes, 25% from the county, and possibly 50% from DATCAP to fund the salary for that position.
I think it'd be such a shame if she wasn't continuing on. I mean, I see a night and day difference between her predecessor and what she's doing now, and it's gonna be a shame if she's not doing it.
Yeah, Mark and I both obviously made our comments known to both Colton and the county administrator on how we felt about Heather's work and support of her, as well as did Dave's letter. So they've considered all that. That's why they want to continue with the position. But being that the grant sunsets in August, they would open up an application process. If the county approves hiring a full-time position to continue with the work that Heather had done.
One of the things that they did, Colton and Cynthia did say, they're trying to find money grants to fund this position. But some of the grants they're looking at, the monies won't be available until next year. So they're trying to keep the position.
Scott?
Thank you, gentlemen, for your efforts. It's just frustrating, and echo the sentiments. If we lose that person, we're gonna go in a tailspin. I understand this whole thing, so, you know, you gotta get the county board on. So is there kind of a deadline here with budget process and the county board that this can happen before this sunsets? I know this, I'm not very optimistic that it will, but what's your perspective on that? Can you help me understand that?
I think the county board is probably the last venue that will make a decision about funding that position. You know, the county administrator is going to be starting to meet with the different department heads to see what their budgets, or what they propose for their budgets. After that happens, then she will meet with the finance department and human resources and decide from there how much money actually is going to be available. And I think that's all going to happen starting now, but it won't be completed before this grant sunsets, I don't believe. So if a decision does get made about funding that position with the county board, it's probably going to be in fall, or at the budget process time when the county board votes on the budget, which would be October, November.
Thank you.
Every month, we have a meeting with the ACLA, the Adams County Lakes Association, and I had mentioned to Bill Pegler about putting Heather on there as a speaker, which she did at the beginning of this month, and she gave a good presentation about biochar, but kind of pushing the other lakes to push the supervisors to take a look at her background, her contributions, and everything that she would be doing here. But she gave a real good presentation with the ACLA, so that other people in the county are aware of her and what the work she's doing. Also with the Rocha Cree, she's on with their board. So, yeah, we got to try and figure out a way to keep her on. I mean, just a wonderful person to work with. So, we're open for suggestions. Anything
That's all
else,
I have,
Mike?
Carl.
Thanks, Mike. Town update? Mark, what do we have? We don't have anything, do we? Other than the whole town now is equipped with EpiPens, all of our first responders. We had Channel 7 out here giving the broadcast on that. So, and it is, I think we did put it on the website. You can access it to see how it went. And we had the Muellers here and Chief Lobby all spoke on it, and it was well received, I think. So thanks to the town for that.
I got one thing I want to say. Just so everybody is aware, at the last town board meeting, the town board was criticized for not moving forward with a town administrator. I've been working on a job description for town administrator for the last month and a half. We've mentioned it at every board meeting since the current board took over. The job description was, I gave it to the town, I think last Friday. It's out in the packet. We're going to be talking about it at the next board meeting, which is tomorrow. But we are going to also request the company that did the organizational study back in 2024?
23.
23. I'm going to ask that we hire them to assist with the selection of a town administrator. So we are going forward with the town administrator.
Anything else?
That's
I'll
enough.
save mine for tomorrow. All right, discussion and possible action on the following items. Approved minutes from Wednesday, May 21st and May 28th, 2025. Going to get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion. to approve the minutes of the 21st and 28th.
I'll second it with the notice that on the agenda it only says May 1st, where it should say May 21st.
Mine says 21st.
Oh, mine says, unless I have one that got printed. Okay, then I'll just second the motion.
Discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Approve vouchers and financials. The financials aren't out yet, be coming shortly. They've been extensive, but we do have the vouchers. Get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers.
I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Suggestions for the next agenda item is number 17.
I think maybe the town board's response to the wake boat ordinance.
Okay, good one. Anything else in the meantime, go ahead and send it in, and we'll get it set up. Next meeting date and time,
July 16th, Wednesday.
9 o'clock. Same location here. Okay. Can we get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.